difference between practitioners who transform rapidly and those who circle the same territory for decades comes down to specific, identifiable factors. These factors can be named, they can be cultivated, they can be implemented starting tonight. What I'm laying out here are 9 acceleration principles drawn from traditions that have produced genuine transformation for thousands of years. Vajrayana Buddhism, the Tamil Siddha lineage, Kashmir Shaivism, the Kemetic mystery schools. These traditions observed what made certain practitioners advance while others remained stuck. They codified their findings. They transmitted them through lineage. 2026 has just begun. You have 12 months ahead of you. The question is whether these 12 months produce the same level of progress as the last 12, or whether something fundamental shifts. I'm going to walk you through exactly what accelerates the path and what slows it down. There's a practical exercise toward the end that integrates everything we cover. We're going to map this out step by step. You know how we get down. The first acceleration principle involves who you practice around. Saraha, the arrow maker whose spontaneous songs became scripture in the Vajrayana tradition, said something that gets overlooked. He said the field matters more than the method. Same practice performed in isolation produces one level of result. Same practice performed in a group of genuine practitioners produces a different result entirely. The mechanism behind this is observable. When you sit alone, your nervous system regulates against your own baseline. When you sit with others who have cultivated stability, your nervous system entrains to a higher baseline. Modern research on heart coherence confirms what contemplatives knew for millennia. Your electromagnetic field extends several feet from your body. It interacts with and is influenced by fields around it. Group practice creates a shared field that lifts everyone participating. The Tamil Siddhas called this the principle of resonance. Bogger, who allegedly traveled to China and back merging alchemical knowledge with Tamil tradition, taught that transformation accelerates when you place yourself in proximity to those who have already transformed. The vibration of an accomplished practitioner acts on your system the way a tuning fork acts on another tuning fork nearby. You begin to resonate at frequencies you couldn't access alone. This means your environment is a practice. Who you spend time with is a practice. The communities you participate in, even remotely, are practices. If your current environment includes primarily people operating from contracted states, fear, competition, resentment, distraction, your system will calibrate to that field, no matter how much you meditate in the morning. If your environment includes people who have done genuine inner work, who operate from steadiness and presence, your system will calibrate upward. The practical application for 2026 is this: audit your field. Notice who you spend the most time around, in person or virtually. Notice what state they typically operate from. Begin shifting the ratio. Find group practice opportunities, even if that means online sanghas or communities. Place yourself in proximity to teachers or practitioners further along the path, even if only through recorded teachings. The field you marinate in shapes what's possible for your practice. The second acceleration principle involves time allocation, and this is where honesty becomes necessary. Utpaladva, who wrote the foundational texts on recognition in Kashmir, lived as a dedicated practitioner for decades before producing the insights his tradition transmitted. Thirumular, who wrote the 3,000 verses of the Tirumantaram, reportedly spent 3,000 years on his work, 1 verse per year, according to tradition. Whether you take that literally or symbolically, the teaching remains consistent. Genuine transformation requires genuine time investment. The modern spiritual marketplace promises quick results. 10 minutes of meditation and your life transforms. 1 weekend retreat and you're awakened. Watch this video and everything changes. I'll be direct with you. These promises are marketing, not transmission. The traditions tell a different story. 15 to 20 minutes daily of focused practice will improve your life. You'll feel calmer, more present, more stable. That's valuable. That level of change is real. For the kind of shift the traditions point toward, the recognition that dissolves the seeker into what was sought, the time requirement is different. 2 hours daily as a minimum baseline. Serious practitioners in contemplative traditions often practice 4 to 6 hours daily. Retreat periods intensify this further. Now, I understand you have a life. You have responsibilities, work, family. 2 hours may feel impossible. But look closely at where your time actually goes. You spend 2 hours daily on activities that serve nothing, scrolling, streaming, complaining, worrying about things you can't control. The time exists. The question is priority. The Kemetic mystery schools in the Perank, the house of life where initiates trained, required years of dedicated study and practice before advancement. The priests who maintained Egypt's mysteries committed to the work. The modern equivalent means carving out genuine, protected time each day and using it with complete presence. For 2026, assess honestly how much time you currently dedicate to practice. How much you actually practice, not how much you intend to practice. Then increase it. Even 30 minutes more per day, maintained consistently, compounds across a year. The question is whether awakening is actually your priority or just something you like the idea of. If what I'm laying out about time and environment is resonating, drop a comment and let me know. The third acceleration principle involves transmission rather than mere information. Somananda wrote the Shivadrishti, the text that became foundational for recognizing what was always already present. His student Utpaladeva built on that work. Utpaladeva's student Abhinavagupta expanded it further. Kashamaraja, another in the lineage, distilled it into the heart of recognition. Each generation received transmission from the previous one. Each generation passed it forward. Information can be extracted from a book or a video. You can read the words and understand them intellectually. Transmission requires something more. It requires contact with someone who embodies what the words point toward. The living quality passes from one consciousness to another in a way that reading alone cannot replicate. The Mahasiddhas of the Vajrayana tradition understood this precisely. Tilopa transmitted to Naropa through years of unconventional instruction. Naropa transmitted to Marpa. Marpa transmitted to Milarepa. Each link in the chain carried something beyond the words. The realization itself passed. This means seeking genuine transmission wherever you can find it. Some teachers transmit powerfully through recorded media. The quality of presence comes through even at a distance. Some teachers require physical proximity. You feel something shift in their field that wouldn't happen through a screen. For 2026, examine your relationship to teaching. Are you collecting information or are you receiving transmission? Are you accumulating concepts about awakening or are you in relationship with sources that actually transmit the living quality? The difference matters. Information stacks in the mind. Transmission changes something at the root. Seek teachers who have walked the path, not those who have only studied it. Seek lineages that carry unbroken chains of realization, not merely historical credentials. Place yourself in their field, whether physically or through their recorded transmissions. Let the teaching work on you rather than adding to what you know. The fourth acceleration principle involves the body as instrument. Manibhadra, one of the lesser-known Mahasiddhas, achieved realization while maintaining ordinary life, family, work, daily responsibilities. What distinguished him was the refinement of his vehicle. The body he inhabited had been prepared to conduct the energies required for recognition. Without that preparation, the same insights would have destabilized rather than liberated. The Tamil Siddhars were explicit about this. Kaya Kalpa, the body transformation practices, existed because the body is the laboratory. You can't do high-voltage work through low-voltage wiring. The container has to be capable of holding what you're trying to access. Sivavakiyar put it directly in one of his verses, "The divine lives in your own form, so why seek temples?" But that form requires preparation. Treating the body as instrument differs from physical perfectionism or obsession. An instrument requires maintenance. It requires tuning. It requires clearing the obstructions that prevent it from sounding true. Body preparation involves sleep. Adequate, consistent, restorative sleep that allows the nervous system to reset. Nutrition that avoids creating fog or agitation. movement that maintains flexibility and strength, breath practices that clear the channels and increase life force, sexual energy management that preserves rather than depletes vital power. Each of these deserves its own treatment, and we've covered many of them in other videos. The principle here is simple. If your body is depleted, agitated, toxic, or rigid, your practice will hit a ceiling. You'll have glimpses, but they won't stabilize. You'll access states, but return to baseline immediately. The body has to be capable of holding the frequency you're trying to access. For 2026, identify the one area of body preparation you've been neglecting. Sleep, diet, movement, breath, energy management. Address that one area with consistency. Watch what happens to your practice when the instrument is tuned. The fifth acceleration principle involves clarifying what you actually want. Think about this for a second. Spiritual seeking often masks competing agendas. Part of you wants freedom. Part of you wants specialness. Part of you wants peace. Part of you wants power. Part of you wants to transcend the world. Part of you wants to succeed in the world. These competing agendas create a divided system. Energy flows in multiple directions simultaneously. Practice becomes a negotiation between parts rather than a unified movement toward realization. And the ego is clever. It hides its agendas behind spiritual language. I want to help others may actually mean I want to be seen as a spiritual person. I want enlightenment may actually mean I want to bypass my human problems. The traditions address this through desire purification. The Kemetic initiates examined their heart before the weighing of Ma'at, the feather of cosmic truth. The examination was seeing clearly what actually moved in the heart. Only what was true could be aligned with truth. Kashmir Shaivism approached this through the concept of contracted will. Consciousness, by its own power, contracts into limited desires. These desires feel like mine, but are actually cosmic will playing as individual preference. Seeing this clearly begins the release. What you thought you wanted reveals itself as a smaller container of the infinite wanting to know itself. Are you with me so far? This one is important. For 2026, spend time with this question. What do I actually want from the spiritual path? Write down whatever comes. Then look at the list and ask, is this true, or is this what sounds spiritual? Be ruthlessly honest. You want recognition from others. Admit it. You want to feel special. Admit it. You want to bypass difficult emotions. Admit it. Admitting what's actually operating clears the path. What's unconscious runs your practice from behind the scenes. What's conscious can be worked with, refined, released when appropriate. Hidden agendas create hidden obstacles. Seen agendas become fuel for transformation. The sixth acceleration principle involves integrating what you study rather than accumulating more. The spiritual marketplace offers infinite content: books, courses, videos, podcasts, retreats, teachers, traditions, techniques. You could spend a lifetime accumulating information about awakening without waking up. In fact, many do exactly that. They know a tremendous amount about consciousness while remaining trapped in patterns that haven't shifted. The traditions were clear about this. Kashamaraja, who wrote The Heart of Recognition, distilled an entire philosophical tradition into 20 sutras. 20 statements that, if fully absorbed, contain everything necessary. He created the distillation because he understood that less, deeply integrated, accomplishes more than vast amounts poorly absorbed. There's a principle in the Tamil Siddha tradition about this. One breath taken with complete presence accomplishes more than 1,000 mechanical breaths. The same applies to study. One teaching fully embodied accomplishes more than 1,000 teachings collected, but never lived. Integration looks like this. You hear a teaching. Rather than immediately moving to the next video or the next chapter, you stop. You ask, what is this pointing toward in my direct experience right now? You look, you feel, you apply the teaching to what's actually present. You practice with it until it becomes part of how you see rather than something you know about. For 2026, consider pausing the intake. Rather than seeking the next teaching, the next tradition, the next technique, work with what you already have. Choose 3 teachings that have resonated most deeply. Commit to practicing with those 3 until they're lived reality rather than ideas. Depth over breadth. Integration over accumulation. The practical integration of all 9 principles is coming toward the end. If what we've covered so far is landing, or even if it's creating some productive confusion, let me know in the comments. The 7th acceleration principle involves making life itself the practice ground. Practice happens on the cushion. The rest of life is something to get through until the next practice session. This creates a fundamental split, and what split cannot be whole. The Mahasiddhas were explicit about this. Luipa ate fish guts discarded by fishermen as his practice. Hokuripa found awakening through caring for stray dogs. Idekadar in the Tamil tradition found realization while tending sheep. Kajuvali found it while farming. Saraha found it while making arrows. Presence transforms any activity into practice. Washing dishes with complete attention is practice. Walking to the car with complete attention is practice. Listening to another person with complete attention is practice. Eating a meal with complete attention is practice. The traditions called this continuous practice. The Kemetic term was living in ma'at, alignment with truth moment to moment, extending beyond ritual. Kashmir Shaivism pointed to the same reality. Consciousness never stops being consciousness. It continues during mundane activity the same way it continues during meditation. The opportunity for recognition exists equally in every moment. This reframe accelerates everything. Instead of having 1 hour of practice and 23 hours of unconscious living, you have 24 hours of potential practice. The ratio shifts completely. Progress that would take years compresses into months. For 2026, select 3 ordinary activities you do daily: brushing teeth, commuting, preparing food, something mundane. Commit to bringing complete presence to those 3 activities. Full attention. No mental wandering. Notice what happens to these activities when they become practices. Notice what happens to your overall sense of presence when you treat life itself as the training ground. The 8th acceleration principle involves finding the appropriate edge. Vasugupta received the Shiva Sutras, tradition says, inscribed on a rock after a dream. The 77 foundational teachings describe 3 methods: the sudden way for those ready for immediate recognition, the energy way using mantra and subtle practice, the gradual way using techniques and sustained effort. Different methods for different practitioners. One size does not fit all. The same teaching appears across traditions. Too much intensity burns you out. Too little intensity produces no transformation. The path requires finding your edge and working there consistently. The edge, practically speaking, is where practice challenges you without overwhelming you. If you're comfortable during practice, you're probably below your edge. If you're destabilized after practice, you've probably gone past it. The edge is where growth happens. Neither total ease nor crisis. There's a teaching in the Kagyu lineage about this. 3 levels of engagement were described. If attention wanders constantly during practice and you don't notice, you're too lax. If you're straining so hard that the effort itself becomes an obstacle, you're too tight. If you're alert, present, working with real focus while remaining relaxed enough to sustain, you've found the middle. This middle shifts as you develop. What challenged you last year may be comfortable now. The edge moves. You have to move with it. What provided growth 6 months ago may have become a routine that produces no transformation. The practice needs to evolve as you evolve. For 2026, honestly assess where you are. Are you challenged by your current practice, or has it become comfortable? Are you growing, or are you maintaining? If growth has stopped, increase the intensity, the duration, the depth. Find your new edge. Work there. The 9th acceleration principle is the one that accelerates everything else. It involves orientation toward recognition itself rather than preparation for recognition. Practices prepare the ground. They clear obstructions, refine the instrument, cultivate presence, build capacity. This is necessary work, but the work can become a substitution for what it was meant to enable. You can prepare forever without ever arriving. The recognition schools in Kashmir were explicit about this. The whole philosophy rests on a single insight. What you're looking for is already present. You see liberation. You notice what you already are. Somananda put it directly. What you're seeking, you already are. The seeking itself obscures the already present reality. Utpaladeva called this the seeing that reveals what was always there. Practice removes what seemed to hide it, but the hiding was always only apparent. This reorientation accelerates everything because it shifts the center of gravity. Instead of approaching practice as someone who lacks what they want, working to get it someday, you approach practice as what you already are, becoming clearer about your nature. The energy completely changes. One approach is rooted in lack. The other is rooted in presence. Don't let what I'm saying fly over your head. You are already the awareness in which all experience appears, right now, listening to these words. The presence that's here, receiving this, has always been here. It was here when you were 5 years old. It will be here as the body ages. It requires noticing, not improvement. This noticing is available instantly, but stabilizing in it, living from it, requires the preparation the other 8 principles describe. So both are true. You're already what you're seeking, and there's genuine work to do. The paradox dissolves in practice. For 2026, orient toward recognition. Rather than practicing as someone who will someday wake up, practice as presence noticing itself more clearly. Rather than treating the spiritual path as a journey toward a distant destination, treat it as clarifying where you already stand. This single shift of orientation changes everything. Now, let's get practical. I want to walk you through how to integrate these 9 principles into a year-long approach that actually accelerates your path. The first quarter of 2026, January through March, focus on 3 things: environment, time, and body. These are foundational. Without them, the other principles can't produce their full effect. For environment, audit who you spend time with. Identify one community, group, or source of teaching that genuinely transmits presence. Increase your exposure to that field. Decrease exposure to environments that pull you into contracted states. If you can find a local practice group, join it. If not, online sanghas and communities can provide genuine field support. For time, establish a non-negotiable practice block. Minimum 45 minutes daily. If you're serious, aim for 90 minutes. Protect this time the way you'd protect a medical appointment or a work meeting. The path responds to commitment, demonstrated through action. For body, identify your weak link: sleep, diet, movement, breath, or energy management. Focus on that one area for the first quarter. Get it to baseline functionality before adding complexity. A depleted or agitated body limits everything else you're trying to do. The second quarter, April through June, add 3 more principles: transmission, desire clarification, and integration over accumulation. For transmission, deepen your relationship with a genuine source. This might mean attending a retreat, receiving direct instruction, or intensifying study with a teacher whose presence transmits beyond words. If you lack access to a living teacher, study the recorded works of masters whose transmission comes through their words. Let the teaching work on you at depth. For desire clarification, spend time in honest inquiry. Journal about what you actually want from the path. Notice the competing agendas. See them clearly. Name them. Let conscious seeing begin the natural release. For integration, pause the intake of new teachings. Select 3 teachings that have resonated most deeply from your study so far. Work exclusively with those 3. Practice them until they become part of how you see rather than ideas you know about. Resist the pull toward novelty. Depth now, breadth later. The third quarter, July through September, add life as practice and finding your edge. For life as practice, select 3 mundane activities and commit to full presence during them. Treat them as formal practice sessions. Notice the tendency to mechanize them. Return to presence each time you notice absence. Gradually expand the range of activities you bring presence to. The goal is continuous practice, not intermittent effort. For finding your edge, assess whether your current practice still challenges you. If growth has plateaued, intensify. Add time, increase difficulty, go deeper. If you've been at the same level for months without change, something needs to shift. The edge moves as you develop. You have to move with it. The fourth quarter, October through December, focus on recognition orientation. This is where everything comes together. By this point, you've spent 9 months preparing the ground, environment, time, body, transmission, clarity, integration, life as practice, appropriate edge. Now the orientation shifts. Instead of practicing as someone seeking what they lack, practice as presence becoming clearer about itself. The emphasis moves from doing to seeing, from effort to noticing. The techniques continue, but the relationship to them changes. They become instruments of recognition rather than methods of attainment. Let me give you a specific practice to work with now, something you can begin tonight and carry through the entire year. Sit comfortably. Spine upright. Allow the eyes to close or rest at a downward angle. Notice that you're present. Before any thought about being present, presence itself is already here. You notice it. Feel the body sitting. The weight of it. The temperature. The subtle aliveness moving through it. These sensations are appearing in something. They're appearing in awareness. Notice that awareness isn't located in the body. The body is located in awareness. Where does awareness stop and the room begin? Look for the edge. Can you find it? Thoughts are arising. Maybe about what I'm saying. Maybe about something else entirely. Notice that thoughts appear. They float through. They dissolve. What they appear in remains. Now, the recognition move. Ask, silently, what is aware? Just look. What is it that's receiving this experience right now? You can't find it as an object because it's what looks. The eye can't see itself, but it can know itself directly. Not as an object, but as the very nature of experiencing itself. Rest there. Not looking for anything. Just aware. Just this. Notice from this place that sadness or joy, confusion or clarity, agitation or peace, all of it appears within this open presence. The presence itself holds the qualities of what appears without becoming them. It holds everything without being changed by anything. This is what you already are. The practice is noticing you never left. When you're ready, allow the eyes to open. Let the visual field enter. Notice that the same presence that was here with eyes closed is here with eyes open. Conditions come and go within it. This is the practice of recognition. Brief, direct, repeated throughout the day. 10 seconds of genuine noticing can shift more than an hour of mechanical practice. Quality over quantity, depth over duration. Let me circle back and tie together what we've covered. The 9 acceleration principles are one approach seen from 9 angles. Each supports the others. Each becomes more effective when the others are in place. Environment provides the field. Time provides the container. Body provides the instrument. Transmission provides the living quality that makes practice more than exercise. Desire clarification removes hidden obstacles. Integration over accumulation deepens what you have, rather than scattering energy across what you lack. Life as practice extends the training ground beyond formal sessions. Finding your edge ensures you're actually growing rather than maintaining. Recognition orientation shifts everything from seeking to seeing. Any one of these, implemented consistently through 2026, will change your year. All 9 together create compound acceleration. What would have taken a decade compresses. What felt distant becomes near. The Tamil Siddhas spoke of favorable conditions for practice. Certain times, certain places, certain configurations of energy made practice more fruitful. The beginning of a year is one such time. The momentum of a fresh start creates an opening. Intentions set now carry weight they wouldn't carry in July. Use this threshold wisely. Kemetic initiates understood time as circular rather than linear. Each year brought the same opportunities in new form. The question was whether you'd be ready when they appeared. Preparation meets opportunity. That produces transformation. 2026 has just begun. 360-odd days stretch ahead of you. These days will pass regardless of what you do with them. The question is whether they'll pass with you circling the same territory you've circled for years, or whether something fundamentally shifts. The shift follows the principles I've described. Place yourself in fields that elevate. Commit real time to practice. Prepare the body as the instrument it is. Seek transmission, not just information. Clarify what you actually want. Integrate rather than accumulate. Make life itself the practice ground. Find your edge and work there. Orient toward recognition rather than endless preparation. And remember, underneath all the principles, underneath all the practice, underneath all the effort, what you're seeking is already present. The seeking itself is awareness playing at not knowing itself. Every moment of genuine looking finds what was never lost. Every moment of presence confirms what never left. The traditions preserved these teachings for 30,000 years because they work. When applied with sincerity, they produce transformation. You can verify this yourself, this year, starting now. If this transmission served you, subscribe. We do this consistently, quality content on these topics, multiple times per week. Share this with someone you think is ready for it. And let me know in the comments, of the 9 principles, which one lands most directly for where you are right now? What's the one that, if you implemented it consistently this year, would change everything? The door is open. 2026 is here. Walk through.